Where'd it go? There it is. And one last step. There we go. Boom. All right. Good evening, everybody. Popping in. Good evening, everybody. Alright, let's get back to this coloring. So I have to try recording this. That's working okay up there. Alright, seems okay-ish. So, yeah. I want to record this. I wanted to finish coloring this 8-page sequence that I hadn't gotten around to for a long time. Kind of looking out, I kind of wish I hadn't gotten so crazy with the ink, but you know, it is what it is. So just laying out some of these flats to get started with earlier today, where I kind of put a bunch of that down. So most of that side's going to be this color too. Let's grab all of that. Too far. All right. Try this one. There we go. Good evening, good evening. Do let me know if there are any questions out there. I'm wearing my fancy pants reading glasses tonight. I found when I work kind of at these distances that it can help my eyes from getting as tired for whatever reason. Something that started up the last couple of years where I found I need to start wearing reading glasses. Everything else is fine. It's just these extended drawing sessions. But if you're just coming in, my name is Peter SAKIEVICH. I'm an arts educator and teach a lot of illustration and figure drawing and concept art and painting and all those good things. And I like to help students kind of make those challenging things a lot easier to deal with. And so, but I also like to work on my creative activities, and just because, partially because of the teaching experience I have, more or less, you know, comfortable doing that sort of thing live, for the most part. Sometimes I need to really lock in and get something done, but I don't mind talking and working, and so if you've got questions, I don't mind chatting through them with you here while I am working. So I need to be a little more regular about my own schedule. I'm going to start been working on that horned toad or horny toad bust the last couple of weeks on the morning streams. And it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah. I always say I'm a fan of 3D modeling. I'm certainly not an expert. But I do enjoy it. So, anyway. Yeah, we're going to work on getting these pages closed. This is a sequence I did. When did I do these originally? I think it was in the beginning of the year. And then I was working on some other things, and what I intended to do was to kind of finish these as this 8-page sequence as kind of a test to kind of work myself through the whole process of coloring, assembling, penciling, coloring, assembling, inking, lettering, and kind of putting together a print-worthy file, just so I kind of put myself through that whole little training process, and then do that for pitch project. And put this out so people want to download it. They'll be able to do that once it's complete. So that's the intent of this little project here. Yeah, so anyway, after I prepped these pages, they'd already been scanned in a while ago, and I was kind of doing a test coloring on another set of pages where I want to keep the coloring really, really simple. Mostly flat tones with a little bit of gradations in it, not really any ink holds if I can avoid it. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. So right now I'm just kind of putting down some flat tones over the areas. I went through earlier, kind of set up the different regions, so that way like a deep background, main background, middle ground, and foreground, and then I go in and kind of add in the color and things that I need for other areas. So that's what we're working on here. And then the color palette I'm using here, I've kind of picked it from different areas from the last pictures. That way there's a consistency. So I made a little color palette based off of that. Not that there won't be some variations, but at least there'll be some consistency to start off with. And then the program I'm using here, this is a program called Infinite Painter. If you're not familiar with it, sadly, I don't understand why. I know the other one, the most popular app has a lot of really great marketing, and it's a really good tool. Like, I've used it, Procreate, but this is one actually that I prefer and have preferred for a long time, which is called Infinite Painter. And it's on iPad, it's on Android. I think you can get it on certain kinds of MacBooks. but it has some unique working tools. So, for example, this brush I'm using right here, basically you can kind of draw your shape. Well, these are actually real inks, the blacks. So they are actual. This is actual. Let's see, where are those pages at? Let's see, where's that page? I'll pull it out more here. Let's see, not there, not there. There we go. There it is. Okay. Real page. Real ink. Yeah, so I used real ink. A lot of this stuff. Right, Bosch? Yeah, all scanned in, and then basically what I do is I took it into, let's see, been using Affinity on my computer instead of Photoshop. There's a thing you can do in Photoshop too, maybe other applications. I think you can do it in Clip Studio, where you basically can select. What I do is I run some layer effects on top, some adjustment layers, where you push the lights and the darks up, but you also erase out the reds that were in there before. And then you can do a selection of all of the white and delete that out. And then you can export that as a PNG. So it keeps that transparency, and then I import it into this app here. So I do accentuate the inks a little bit just so they're more consistent. Really dark with curves over on the computer. Yeah, but it's all real ink. I do have a pretty nice little inking set that I use in here, but yeah, this is all the real stuff. But yeah, the brush I'm using in here allows you to kind of draw shapes like that. Clip Studio has a similar brush. Let's see, 2 and 10, so that was just too dark, so I'm going to lighten it up a bit. But this one you can actually get texture on it, which is really nice. There's an iPhone version too. And it's on Android, this program, Infinite Painter. I think it's like $10 or something. It's pretty cheap. It has a lot of unique brushes and unique things it does with perspective that other apps don't do. It's not plugged in up here, so I guess I got to use both. That's why I need both, huh? This cable. Just watching my battery drain on my phone. Let's swap this for that. Pop this into here. There we go. Much better. It's getting thirsty. So anyway, yeah, it allows me to kind of draw the shapes in. So it's like select fill. There is a plugin I think you can get for Photoshop that'll do this. Yeah, my goal here is kind of keep the coloring really simple. I don't plan on like doing this like painterly coloring. Yeah, it's definitely recommended. But yeah, one of the things you can do uniquely with this particular program, though, is you can actually put textures into the selections, which you cannot do with Clip Studio or that Photoshop plugin. So if you want to have like a halftone, screen tones or something like that, if you want to make those um, and use them, I'm not using them for this project, but they're pretty easy to make. Clean up those edges, but they are pretty easy to make inside of this program. I've made some for myself. Along with you can put whatever textures you want in, which can work out really nicely for any kind of textured effects that you want to do in the programs. Let's come back here and cut that in. I have kind of mixed feelings about how I ink these down. I mean, I had a really good time painting, inking these up this way, but I do feel like it would help to have a little bit more restraint, just so it read a little more clearly. But you'll see how it looks when it's colored and lettered and all that. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do this. I haven't really been through this process completely before, and so as a result, I did want to make sure I kind of gave myself the full experience, as it were. That's my goal, anyway. So, I'm just kind of laying in the local colors or base colors, as the 3D people say. We'll throw on some shadows. So that's what we're working on here tonight. Is just getting this. Let's see how far I can get these pages done. Get them assembled into a little PDF, and then send it out to people that are on the email list for this project. But that's what we got going on here. So if you're on Instagram, you can just comment comic, and I have a little chat bot that I have set up to collect email addresses. So that's what we do be doing here tonight. So let's get this thing kind of separated out a bit with a different gray. Maybe a lighter one. So yeah, goal is to kind of get the flats all done. Hopefully tonight. Stop around 8-ish or so. So like another 40 minutes. And then tomorrow I'll be back on probably about 7. That's the plan for the next bit. Hopefully ongoing. I have school starts in a couple weeks. University stuff where I teach. And so kind of getting ready for that to a large degree. So but trying to kind of use a simple coloring method, and then I definitely feel like kind of looking at this now. I haven't really looked that closely at these drawings in a couple months, and I think I've really a little heavy-handed on the inking. But let me go over on Twitch. Post it to the chat. Let's say auto mod help chat. Let me see what's going on over there. Let's see Twitch. Oh yeah, that's definitely a bot. I don't know what the advantage is to getting fake interaction on your posts is. Like, I guess it makes you look bigger or something. I definitely have very small, like YouTube, Twitch audience, so it would look a little strange, I think. It would definitely be inauthentic, and I don't want any inauthentic stuff going on here. Like I saw a super pro comic artist make some long excuse about why he was doing some AI stuff yesterday. It's like, well, it's not authentic, among many other things, but And there's some guy on there arguing me about it inside the post. Like, he invited the criticism, he asked for it specifically. People didn't like it, and he wrote a long post. And, you know, when you do that, you kind of invite it. And it's definitely disappointing to me. This guy's saying, well, you shouldn't say anything. It's none of your business. I'm like, well, puts it in my feed and asks people's feedback. It kind of turns into my business, I think. I think that's how that works. Call it a hunch. So, anyway, yeah, working trying to get this done. I wanted to kind of get this initial thing done because kind of just put myself through this little process of, you know, not just drawing it, but, you know, coloring it and lettering it and doing kind of a prep as if it was going for print kind of file. And so I've been meaning to get to this. I've just been really distracted this summer. But I do want to kind of keep to a flatter coloring style, so because there's so much form and texture in the ink that I think it would help to keep that a little quieter. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, come on here tonight to work on this. I might use this for some rust on here. I want to be careful I'm not getting too detailed. I should stop that chroma back a little bit. So I appreciate it. Just kind of getting the flat colors in, and then we'll put some tone on there. I think that might be good for the background in that area. Down here, get this area. So start with this orange. You want to kind of keep it loose. I do feel like I overdid it with the inking though when I did this. But if you've been in here, I'm kind of explaining that, trying to put myself through this process of completing the project. But that's kind of my primary goal here, as a way of learning it. Didn't catch it properly. There we go. Red. So yeah, the goal is kind of to keep do it in flats. And then so a bunch of this down here. And let's put that whole thing lighten up just so we have it. Now we will pop a little bit. It's interesting. I've watched some like professional comics people do their coloring, and it seems like they always have like really complicated processes where it's all about these kind of selections that they create. I'm like, why don't you just do these things all on different layers or something? I do have some limits on the layers I can use here, just because this is getting to be an older iPad now. It was new once upon a time, and something happened. I think time. But good evening. Thanks for coming in. Working on my. Been meaning to get to this actually for a long time, and I'm like, I just need to sit down and do this. But it's just getting these initial pages I did, I think back in like February or something. And I got into like making other pages. And, Well, the intent was to like do these and then turn it into a comic that I can send out. There's my water right here. And make that available to people that are on the email list as like a little 8-page test preview thing. Let's see, I need to grab some of this stuff over here. Then I got busy trying to work on the story and some other things, and kind of took me away from completing it. I'm like, no, I just need to sit down and knock it out. So I've mostly finished coloring. I started with the last 2 pages, so that way when I kind of work, these are the first 2, and I work forward to those and touch them up later. But let's grab that rust. There you go. So, but anyway, it's an app I like. If you haven't been in here before, it's an application called Infinite Painter. And it has a number of unique things that it does that other apps don't do. What I'm doing here basically is you draw a shape, and it fills the shape. And you can get tools like that in Clip Studio. You can get that in Photoshop with a plugin. But this one actually, I'm not using it for this right now, but it has a thing where you can basically put a texture into that. So like I've got a version of the brush that does screen tones, which I think is kind of cool. So you put a texture in there, which is nice, right? So if you're doing like, you're inking in here, which I'm not, this is all inked traditionally with real ink and scanned in. Yeah, again, you can do this in other apps. So like you can do this in Clip Studio. I'm not sure about Krita. And again, there is a free plugin for Photoshop that you can get that'll do like a lasso fill. But again, this way you can do textures. Like I don't just have that one. I have one. Where is it at? My paint set. I have one over here where it's got like a rock texture embedded in it, which could be really nice too. So maybe I should be using that for this rust. Just to get a little extra texture on there. Mostly just be keeping this stuff flat, but that might be one where that might be worth doing. But yeah, and it's just Snap on the iPad. It's really handy. It has, you can also like customize your interface, like you can move your color picker around. There's a bunch of other things that are unique that it does. It has non-destructive adjustment layers, so you can do your curves and your levels and contrast and all that with adjustment layers. Where like with Procreate, which I do use. I actually have used Procreate quite a bit over the years. I like it, but it doesn't have, its adjustment layers, at least last time I checked, are all destructive. So, when you change them, it changes the actual pixels on the layer. And but in here, they're not. And then it has like I think the perspective tools in here are much better than what you can get over there. So you can literally just like you turn them on, and they're already there. Like you don't have to go into a separate part of the program to turn on your perspective stuff. And then also it has a circle drawing tool, which will snap to the perspective, which I like quite a bit as well. So it kind of has these unique. What I mean by that is if you turn like your perspective grid on here, if you grab the circle tool, which will use whatever brush you're using. So if let me grab a brush that'll work with it. But basically it'll draw that circle correctly in perspective. It'll draw that ellipse. So, whether it's sideways or, this way or that way. And the other thing it does that's nice is if you have it like this, it creates an editable object that you can move. And it will adjust it based off of where it is in the perspective grid. It's really nice. So the other thing that I love about this program is the finger swipes here. So 3 fingers up and down changes brush size, which once you get used to that, it's hard to use other programs where you have to hit a slider. And then also going left and right with just the opacity. So you kind of make it big and you can see the opacity get adjusted. So definitely a big fan of this this program. So I'm often talking it up. I have worked with them in the past, so it's been a long time. Like I did a presentation for the guy that runs it at Lightbox a few years back. That was fun. But thirsty. A little warm up here today. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna get some of that orange edges on some of these panels. Yeah, but for the most part, I'm trying to keep the coloring pretty flat in here. Like I don't want to use. I'm not planning on like doing a full-blown kind of painting thing. Just trying to keep it simple. It's kind of the goal. But yeah, I wanted to get the coloring done on this before the semester starts. And then get this out to people that are on Comic's email list. Which if you're on Instagram, you can get on just by commenting Comic, and I have a little chat bot that has a pre-recorded conversation to collect your email address if you're interested in it. And once I get this done, I'll send this out to people on that list. So, but yeah, definitely just want to get this. Get it all colored up. I think that's good for the hallway there. This guy's got problems. But we're about them later. I'm just focusing on coloring the hallway. So, yeah, lots of people popping in tonight, so that's nice to see, relatively speaking. I don't know where you people are at like 7 in the morning, but well, I've been busy UVing something. That's very exciting, right, to watch. So hoping to get into texturing tomorrow. Got to review the program I want to use for that, but so I'll just try and get this hallway in first. Get that little bit of a color there. But yeah, let's see. Good evening. We're making some good progress getting these flats in here. Alright, so I think we're ready for the next set. Make sure that's locked. And we've got our color palette here, so get the big stuff in. You do though, old man. Don't need anything. You do though. They're in the foreground though, so. How do I pin the tools at the top? So this is Infinite Painter, right? So the tools at the top, there they are. So if you look up here, like there's these tools up here in the corner, right? If you hold your finger down, you can drag it out and add it to it. I don't know which one I grabbed, but I can say I grabbed the curve tool, which I don't need. Pull that off. And when if you don't want it, you can just hold your finger, drag, and then drop it onto the X. And the color picker is pretty easy too, so I'll throw it onto the X to get rid of it. But basically, open up your color thing, 2 fingers, hold, and you can scale it too, move it around. So you go and download the app. Sadly, so the brush, if you picked up the brush that I'm using to do this coloring in, this is in fills. So if you go to over here into the brush palette where the brushes are, you can use it to erase too, but it's under fills with the knife. You grab that, and then it's right here. It's the solid fill. These other ones you see here are ones that I have made for myself. If you do want my brush set, they are on my website, rainlandstudios.com. You can buy them there. But I made a bunch of screen tones that I think work pretty well for this. I have a whole ink set, which is right here. There's a bunch of these things. So I can actually ink this with this actually pretty nicely, but I don't. I'm trying to use traditional ink and then just color it. But yeah, that's how you put them up there. So you put, like I put some of the perspective ones up here. So that's what's up here. So there's orthographic, 1 point, 2 point, isometric, and fisheye. And then these are a couple of the selection tools. This is the circle drawing tool. And again, what's nice about these circle drawing tools is they'll use whatever brush you're using. So you can grab a brush. And actually, while it's still live in the circle, you can actually swap brushes in the middle of it. Which is pretty handy, I think. Same for the square tool. It has also has panel drawing tools, so it'll create panels that you can draw inside of. It has a bunch of cool stuff in here. I'm just really sad it doesn't get as much notice. Actually, one of the things I like about it too is it does this thing where if you draw, let me make a bigger brush. So 3 fingers to make the brush bigger, right? Make a marker. There we go. Sorry, I've got that other brush. Yeah, so I mean, like, I don't know why more people don't use this program. But you grab, so you do like the grab and hold, right? And it'll do a smoothing on it. It'll also do a tail thing on here, which is kind of fun too in this program. So it'll like snap, and then the tail will keep moving. But when it's live like this, you just tap the stroke, and you can edit the stroke. So in like Procreate, you have to like tap a separate button. This one you just tap the stroke. And what's nice about this one, that 3-finger thing, it still works while it's live. So you can make it bigger and smaller. And then you can also play with the opacity. You can make it brighter, darker, or not brighter, darker, but that. I think you should be able to switch the color too. Yeah, well, yeah, you can switch color while it's still live, which is really nice. And then the other thing, so you can move these nodes around, and you can also add in new ones or delete ones. So you tap it once, and it makes it an angle. So instead of being rounded, it's an angle. If you want to get rid of them, you drag them on top of each other. And again, you should make it bigger or smaller, or more opaque or less opaque. Yeah, but yeah, it used to do a lot more kind of publicity for it, and it's just like I think it's just one guy mostly working on it. It's like a side gig. I met him once, a couple times. Once on Zoom, I did a presentation at Lightbox a few years during the pandemic, so it was online with him. Has a bunch of other cool stuff in here too. Like it's got like this. I made a version of it for this, but it's this kind of web brush, which I don't know how well you can see it on here because it's just really small. I'll zoom in, but it's like this web thing. It used to be a. I'm using it. I have it like there as like a fill for scratching and filling things. I made a version of it, but wrong button. Then you pull this out though, and you've got all your layer stuff as usual. There's your layer modes. Up here's your what's the word I'm looking for? Those non-destructive adjustment layers are up here. So you tap that, and then it brings up different kinds of adjustment layers and other effects that are all non-destructive. So yeah, it's like it's just. Yeah, Procreate definitely has better advertising, and it is a really good program. Like, there's no shade at them, but over in Procreate, you can do animation in it, right? Some limited animation inside their program, as well as with their newer thing that they've got going. And then there's also the 3D texture painting that you can do in there. Let's see, for some reason you are locked in. There you go, lock you down. I've done 3D texturing in there for like models I've done in Nomad Sculpt. But yeah, this slider thing too, where you do 3-finger swipes, is also in Nomad Sculpt. So if you do sculpting over in that program, this is the background here. We can do now. Yeah, and you can do all the you can do all the painterly, textury stuff in there. The brush, you can't import brushes from other programs, which is one limitation it has. So it has its own brush engine. It also has a mode for drawing what do they call tileable textures or tiled images. So it's like a special format called pattern when you open it up, where you can like create your own painted textures. And so like if you want to do like stylized textures for 3D or designing a pattern for fabrics or other things, you can do that. So yeah, I do have it crash once in a while, but Procreate will crash on me too, so I don't really, it's never been that much of an issue for me overall, just because it happens other places too. But I've never really lost very much in a crash. So, all right, where we go down here. Let's get these guys colored in with the correct color. This layer, not this layer. Well, I think sometimes I think just like, well, I think my iPad's older now. Right? It's like I think it's coming up on 4 years old. So it might just be because it's older, memory issue or something. And like these files I'm working with are pretty large. One of the things I learned about iPads after I bought this one was that if you get an iPad that has more than 1 terabyte of hard drive space in here, so one terabyte of memory or more, then you get double the RAM. And I didn't know that. So I was like, well, how much memory do I need? Like half a gig or a quarter of a gig, whatever it was I went with. It's like, how much do you need? And I didn't realize that that's what would happen. So now I know. So if I were to get an iPad again, I would spring, for the extra memory. But I didn't know, so there you go. But now I know. Let's see, let's get I think this is their backpack color. Yeah, I learned that from Glenn Southern. Let's see, is that the right color? This color. That's the other color. Because he does a lot of stuff with Nomad Sculpt on the iPad. Which is also on computers now too. You can get it over there. I wish I'd known. I was like, well, I don't need that much memory, right? I just need I'm not really storing a lot of stuff on these machines. I'm just doing the illustration stuff, and then I'll pull those off when I'm done. Put them on the computer. Now I know. Yeah, but I love these texture brushes. I've actually I'll put a texture on. I like using it for like painting leaves. Right, because you can draw like a leaf shape, and then use that. Just draw a bunch of shapes with it. But it does use different brush engines, so you can't import like Photoshop brushes or Procreate brushes. You can bring in the alphas. If you go into the programs and like my screen tones here, if you go into edit the brush, you can put a texture over here. So you can bring your alphas in for the head or for the overall kind of background of the brush. There's a whole bunch of settings. Like the settings are actually really deep in here. But oops, turn my screen tone on. Grab the wrong brush. Thank you. Not you. I want to do solid. Trying to keep the coloring just really straightforward in this. A little bit of color variation, but what do you think, Bosch? Yeah, but a lot of people don't know the program exists. He was a bit more proactive with advertising it. He had like a guy that was doing, like he was paid to do posts and things for a while. A guy I know. It just didn't take off, and I'm not sure why. Um, so I like to point it out to people when I can, because I think it definitely deserves a lot more users. I imagine the guy himself, he gets busy, right? Like this is a side gig for him. So at least I think it's a side gig. I didn't ask him specifically about that, but um, the foreground that way. So yeah, let me know what you think if you have any questions. Um, let's see. Let's try. Let's maybe make his hat, I guess, this color. That glove. Whatever he's holding here, I guess, can be that color too. I'll get rid of that color picker out anyway. Put that away. Actually, that's in the foreground. Put his arm in the foreground to make it easier to paint him in the background. Alright, I need to grab that color. Make sure they connect properly. Alright, and then go back to this one. Yeah, so this afternoon I was working on kind of getting these pages set up, and then started the flats earlier. Yeah, before I took the dog out for his WALK, and got him back in. Back up here. So, with the RAM thing, I do wonder these days, to a certain degree, just because of all the AI nonsense going on with a lot of people, with a shortage in RAM and it being more expensive and all that nonsense, that maybe they won't be as generous with their RAM. We'll have to see. I think they're anticipating the newer iPad coming out next spring. We're kind of in the middle of a cycle. I think that came out last fall, I think was the release. The most recent one. I thought about getting one then, but I'm like, well, this works kind of good enough for what I'm doing, and kind of went through and cleaned up a lot of my, not quite done, but I've been cleaning up kind of my cleaning up my digital life. So, um, like I installed a new hard drive into my computer to store all of my teaching website stuff over at myartprofessor.com, and that it'll back up properly. I got my what's it called? I have an account with Carbonite, which is like a hard drive backup service, and I had it set up on my MacBook Pro, which is over there, and but I never bothered like getting it set up on my actual PC. I'll figure out what color I want to make those guys. Which is funny because I've had the PC for like a few years now, but it basically like backs up everything that's inside your computer to the cloud. And so if you lose any, you know, if your computer crashes or whatever, you keep everything. And yeah, I keep meaning to do it on this computer. I just never got around to it. So I did that earlier this summer. Got the Carbonite on there. I think it's an on by default for 100%. But make sure that's set up properly. Let's see. Make sure you capacity 100. Save. Make sure it doesn't change again. So one of the things I have found interesting, you know, in my teaching at the university, so a lot of students they never go into like their brush settings, which you know, to like customize their brushes and make them their own, which I found interesting. I never, you know, I was always like, oh, let me learn more and get in there and figure it out, and let's see, I think some of these guys are getting this gray. It's like these things are definitely needed it. So, but I'm always like all about kind of customizing things to make it my own, like all the time. So, it's probably not worth the effort, but it's just something I've always done because you know, it's what I like doing. And then half the time I end up just using like a round brush of some kind. Alright. Look at that background there a little bit more. And this is a countdown. So the story here is these guys. This is my working title is BR13R Vincent Breach, and so Vincent is this kid right here. So the guy he's with, hanging out with on this little mission here. This is his paw. And anyway, this is a they are settlers on a distant planet, and they took a generational trip to get out there. So they, you know, a big starship with a number of different people from different countries, and they had kind of their own little zones on the ships, on the fleet as they were coming in. And as they kind of got closer and closer to the planet, they get a better view of it. They knew it could sustain life, you know, based off of what they could tell from Earth. But you know, it was a big leap of faith to send a whole, you know, group of people out into space on a one-way trip for, you know, hundreds of years to get to this place. And so they're very committed to this project. But they get, you know, they get closer and closer, and they see that the planet itself has some very unusual properties. It's like a giant tangle of plants. and they they don't know why it's that way, and they get to the when they arrive, something happens, and a number of the fleet ships get separated and crash elsewhere on the planet away from the main group. And so this is the main group here. And when they find one, they can go out and kind of scavenge one of those crashed fleet ships. And so this is a group that's been sent out from the main colony to scavenge. Anyway, things do not go well. So here they are, kids yelling, they're dragging a wounded guy out, they're trying to get out this way, they're planting bombs, and this is what they're running from, are these guys. And anyway, they kind of get, this is a countdown going on over here, so it'll be a countdown here, boom, and then the next couple pages are kind of about the aftermath of that. The main story I've written up is set much, much later. 20, 30 years later. And the kid's grown up, and the colony itself is kind of in a desperate situation. They haven't been able to adapt to living on this world very well, and their supplies that they built up and could renew to some degree are starting to run low. And in the midst of that, another one of these lost ships, a beacon for it goes off. And he, as a result of what happens here, is the last survivor of this last group that went out, 20, 30 years earlier. And he gets he's selected to go out to go find out what's there, what's with the beacon, transmit the data back, and for all intents and purposes, though, it's a one-way trip. He does not expect to return, and in exchange for that sacrifice, a guarantee is put in place that his wife will receive rations until she passes away. There's more to it than that, but that's kind of the main story. So this is a flashback sequence that's about the disaster, and it's kind of left a mark on his life, where he's kind of lost a lot of his zest for life. He's depressed. It has been for a long time because of what happened. And in the process of this, his father requests or gets him to swear that he won't say something about what he saw on the ship, on this crashed ship. He won't bring that back to the colony. So it's brown over there. And so he's been kind of living with this secret that's been eating at him ever since. And so he let's go ahead and so that's been eating him alive. So he kind of sees this as his opportunity to redeem himself in the colony and to set up for his family. So what color are we gonna? Let's see. I need to finish this guy first, I guess. But that's kind of the foundation for the story. It's interesting. I was looking at the pencils for these the other day, and I was like, "Yeah, I do these pencils pretty clean." I really got into like the texturing and exploring the inking, so I do feel like it's a bit much. So I may eventually end up re-inking this, but again, the main thing I'm trying to do here is just kind of put myself through this process. So that goes back here. Alright, so I need to pick a color for these guys. I feel about that one. That's right there. There you are. Too much. Let's put it over here. Warm them up. Almost. I might do. Kind of imagine their faces kind of being bald. And they're kind of like almost like a vulture. And then they kind of get furrier as they go back. Kind of like that. Maybe a little ruddier. There we go. Something like that. $8:20. A few more minutes and then we'll call it a night because my dog, he has a very specific appointment at 8:30. He'll start reminding me about it once that time rolls around because he's a very smart dog. Those teeth wipes. That goes off page anyway over there, so. Yeah, it's fun coming on, working on this up here. do there, right? There we are. Alright. And then a little bit of variation in the colors. So warm it up, push it over. One layer, this layer. There we go. So some nice mottled skin there. Guess I didn't do it over here. Let's grab these guys. So there's a hole in there. There we go. Lock. Make sure the layers are locked, right? So that might be a good spot to, well, I'll do the teeth real quick or something. Let's get some dentistry work done here. Yeah, so hopefully maybe tomorrow get the lighting on here. See, the dog just got up. He's like, I know what time it is. Hear them shake? He's like, it is my time. We have a schedule, human, and I have expectations. That's what he says. But it is 8:30. He's very good about his schedule. Like, he knows exactly what time it is. Sometimes he's a little bit early. Like, technically speaking, he's 5 minutes early. But, you know, 5 minutes, that's a good amount of time to, like, give somewhat ample enough warning, right? So, all right, that's probably a good spot to pause. So appreciate everybody that came in, and I'll continue with this later.